Greetings, friends. We welcome you to the Sacred Name Telecast, presented by the Assemblies of Yahweh of Bethel, Pennsylvania. I'm Elder Jacob O. Meyer, proclaiming the revealed personal name of our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and the good news of the kingdom of the heavens. And we greet every listener very warmly and heartily, and hope that you join us every time this program can be heard in your area, whether it's the Sacred Name Telecast or the Sacred Name radio broadcast. We'd like to have you join us in the audience because we believe that we have a lot to offer you. And I know that after you begin to research the material that we have available, that you will say the same thing. The religions of this world today are not preaching the true and sound doctrines of the Bible. Most of them have become liberal, and we cannot understand how they have swung so far off to the other side of the pendulum to become so liberal in their teachings, because we try to follow the sacred scriptures. We have just recently received a shipment of over 10,000 of these Bibles. This is now the 7th printing of the Sacred Scriptures Bethel Edition Bible. When we have this one distributed, we'll have about 50,000 of these Bibles in circulation. And that's really a great project that we've undertaken, because we believe that this Bible is much more understandable. I have a cousin who is in the entertainment business, and I sent her a copy of the Sacred Scriptures Bethel Edition Bible. She wrote back and said, when I received the Bible, she said, it's such a wonderful book. I began reading, and I read 4 straight hours. Well, that's what it does to you. The Bible captures your attention, because its message is so pertinent for us in our time. So I hope that you join us every time the Sacred Name programs can be heard. And I know that we have something that you will find very interesting. These are only half-hour programs that I've been able to put out on various stations. I wish I had an hour. But when I'm preaching here at Bethel in the Sabbath services, every Sabbath, which is the 7th day of the week, we keep the 7th day of the week, which is commonly called Saturday, I preach for an hour and a half. And I'm able to get more of the message across to the brethren. So if you are in the vicinity and you'd like to join us, and you're a person of goodwill, and come to learn and not to teach, why, we'll be just too happy to open our arms and our hearts to you and welcome you to the services. The Assemblies of Yahweh International Headquarters Convocation Center can be seen from Interstate Route 78. And we're on the north side of the highway at exit 15. And you get off at exit 15 on the westbound side, and immediately you turn to the left, and you're on our property. And then you go to the west side of the property, and there you'll find the International Headquarters Convocation Center. So if you're a person of goodwill, we'll be just too happy to have you visit us and worship with us on the Sabbath, because it's important that we keep the word of Yahweh and do so just as strictly as we can. We have sought to the best of our ability to get a good, solid, straightforward understanding of the biblical texts, and that's what we published in the Sacred Scriptures Bethel Edition Bible. Now, what has happened to our world? The media reveals that society has become very coarse, very profane, and very risque. Even commercials on television are highly questionable now. I have to turn some of them off because they have become sexually promiscuous and risque. While the common, ordinary discussion, everyday discussions between people, conversations, have become very coarse and very profane and also very risque. Is this necessary? I don't think so. There are prophecies in the sacred scriptures that tell us, however, that this is what will happen in the last days at the close of the age of man. And so I'd like for us to turn today to 2 Timothy chapter 3. I first read this 2 Timothy chapter 3 in the 1950s. And when I read it for the first time, I said, why, that's describing the time in which we're living. It's become a whole lot worse, let me tell you. But let's look at it. But know this, that in the last days indicates the last times at the close of man's age, grievous times shall come. Times of grief and trouble are going to come. For men shall be self-lovers. Well, they're unconcerned about others. Isn't that true? Lovers of money. Isn't that what's happening? They want more and more money. Boastful. Look at what the politicians are saying. Listen to what they're saying and boasting about their accomplishments or things they want to accomplish. Haughty, which means arrogant. And I've always found that when someone is arrogant, they have sin in their life. Haughty, railers. Railers means they just can't stop accusing, can't stop talking bad about other people, bringing terrible things out about other people. Disobedient to parents. That describes juvenile delinquency, doesn't it? Unthankful. No, they think everyone owes them something. Unholy. No, people don't want to be righteous anymore. They don't want to be known as good people. They want to be known as part of the crowd. Without natural affection. Well, isn't it true that anyone who would engage in a partial birth abortion, their natural affection is to be questioned? Because who could kill a little baby? Just recently, a little baby girl was born to my last son, and this little baby is so cute. I got to hold her several days after she was born, and she's so cute, and she already has her little personality that she's developing. So who could reject a little child like that? Without natural affection, implacable, you can't placate them, you can't make peace with them. Slanderers, they're making all kinds of accusations. Without self-control. Well, recently one of the a political figure was exposed as having an affair with a woman while his wife has cancer. And I thought, well, how horrendous can that be? Without self-control, he said he made bad judgments. He couldn't face using the term adultery, and he couldn't confront that he had made a terrible, terrible mistake. Without self-control, fears. Well, they want to battle each other, don't they? This is what's happening on the streets of many cities at night. There are gun battles going on. Fears, no lovers of good. Traitors, they won't keep their word. They won't keep a bargain. Headstrong, you can't turn their opinion in the right direction by arguing the points. as they used to say when I was young, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up. And then here it says puffed up, which is leavened. And to be leavened means to have sin in your life. Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Yahweh. They would prefer to have some kind of a pleasurable time rather than seriously worshiping Almighty Yahweh. Holding a form of righteousness, but having denied the power of it, from these also turn away. Now, I'm reading from 2 Timothy, and this is the third chapter of 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy is one of the smaller books toward the end of the Bible. And if you start with the book of Acts and you keep paging along, you'll eventually come to the book of Timothy, 1 Timothy and then 2 Timothy. This tells us that they have a form of righteousness. Yeah, they all want to be included as church members, but they have denied the power of religion. From such turn away. For of these are they that creep into houses and take captive silly women burdened with sins. Well, the silly women is undoubtedly a symbol of worldly religion. The foreign woman that you read about in Proverbs chapter 7, and burdened with sins, led away in divers lusts, ever learning and never able to come to a knowledge of the truth. How many of you have heard that famous people have changed their attitudes about the true worship and sound doctrine? And then it says here, reprobate corrupted in mind, reprobate concerning the faith. They shall proceed no further, because Yahweh is going to stop them. Now, if you want to take down a cross-reference, you can turn to Romans, and you turn to the book of Acts, and then you follow to the first chapter of Romans, which is the following book. And you can take verses 28 to 32, which says, even as they refused to have Elohim in their knowledge, Elohim gave them up to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, hateful to Elohim, insolent, haughty, boastful. If you're wondering about the word Elohim, then just think of the word Bethel. El is the abbreviation of the Hebrew word Elohim, which means the Almighty. And then if you want to take down yet another cross-reference, you can turn to 2 Corinthians and just keep paging along till you get to the books of Corinthians, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 12, verses 20 and 21. Now, I'd like to urge you, whenever you come to one of these Bible studies, bring along a pad of paper and a pencil or pen. Then you'll be able to take down these biblical references that I give, and you'll read them in the quiet time that you set aside for spiritual enrichment. You'll also have a piece of paper on which to write our name and address and telephone number, because this literature that I have here, this stack of literature on my desk today, is free of charge, without obligation. And I'll be offering it at the end of the program. You can, I'll describe it for the radio audience, and the television audience can see it. So consequently, I'd like to urge you to get your name on our mailing list for the Sacred Name Broadcaster magazine, and request some of this other literature. Here I have 2 paperback books. I published half a dozen paperback books. And I'll send you one of these, whichever one you want, the Tabernacle of Israel in the Wilderness, or the first book of the commentary on Revelation on the 7 assemblies of Asia. Do you know why there were 7 assemblies of Asia? Why are they mentioned so prominently? There's a reason for it, and I hope that you request one of those books, maybe especially the 7 Lamps book. And the 7 Lamps uses as its symbol the menorah of the tabernacle and temple. So consequently, I'd like to urge you to write down our name and address, the Sacred Name Broadcast, P.O. Box C, C as in Charles, Bethel, Bethel, Pennsylvania. Our zip code is 19507. Or the best way to order is really just to go to the telephone and call our toll-free number. You can do this 24 hours a day. It's being answered by a human voice during office hours in the daytime, but you can also at 3 o'clock in the morning, wherever you live, you can pick up the telephone and you can call, and it'll be answered by an electronic answering system. And you give your name and your address very plainly, and then you say, I'm ordering literature, order number 8110. 8110. And this literature order will come out to you just as soon as we can get it in the mail. So consequently, use our toll-free telephone number, 1-800-523-3827. Jot it down. 523-3827. Now, if you're living in a foreign country, undoubtedly that toll-free number will not work, so you'll have to use our main office number if you want a telephone. Otherwise, write to us at the Sacred Name Broadcast, P.O. Box C, Bethel, Pennsylvania, zip code 19507, United States of America. But if you want to use the telephone and telephone for this literature order number 8110, then all you need to do is telephone our main office number, 717-933-4518. Our telephone, our office telephone is also answered at night by electronic answering system. So I'll be looking forward to hearing from you and sending you some of this good literature that you can compare to what the Bible teaches. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 29. Isaiah is the prophet whose prophecy is right about in the middle of the Bible. It follows the book of Psalms. Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 29 is a prophecy of Ariel. Ariel, of course, refers to the altar hearth of El, which was the place of his sacrificial altar. But the name Ariel also means a lion of El. And it says here, here's a prophecy I want you to understand. This one verse today shows us the judgments of Yahweh are already falling into the earth. And that's verse 6. I'll begin reading with verse 5. But the multitude of your foes shall be like small dust, and the multitude of terrible ones as chaff that passes away. Yes, it shall be in an instant, suddenly. Now, verse 6, she shall be visited of Yahweh of hosts with thunder. Well, just last night I was awakened at night, and I had to go around and close the windows. It wasn't air conditioner weather, so I had the windows open to sleep. And suddenly I was awakened by thunder and lightning, really strong, vivid lightning and heavy claps of thunder. And so I had to close the windows. We've had many thunderstorms this year. And with earthquake, well, we just had an earthquake here in the United States on the West Coast, and earthquakes are becoming more and more evident. China had an earthquake, and there have been earthquakes around the world. The Pacific Ring of Fire is active at the present time, and so these earthquakes, the one at Chino Lake, California, southeast of Los Angeles, that occurred not long ago, 5.4 on the Richter scale, with about 60 different aftershocks. And great noise, and great noise can mean anything. It might be the Twin Towers coming down, violence, violent acts being perpetrated against the United States and other countries. Great noise can be the noise of battle over in the Middle East. We can use a number of different interpretations for this great noise. And whirlwind, that's the smaller one of the storms. The word is Sufa, and the second one is Sarah, which is both of them are defined in the Hebrew dictionaries as hurricanes. We've already had one of the hurricanes here, and then just in the last few days, a storm headed out into the Atlantic Ocean from here. And so this storminess is unusual, the meteorologist that was describing this situation indicated. And with the flame of a devouring fire. Isn't that what's happening? Just in this morning's paper, there was an article about how California, already strapped for cash, has a mounting bill for fighting the fires on the West Coast. The West Coast has been burning here for months. Prior to that, it was down in Florida and in other places. Floods have been striking, and we could just go on and on with the catastrophes that we have experienced here in the United States and also in foreign countries over the recent past. And so what Almighty Yahweh wants us to understand is, let's shape up our spiritual lives. Let's come out of the world of sin. Let's apply the covenant that He has made with Israel, the covenant, the 10 Commandments, and the laws that are associated with the 10 Commandments. So I'd like to urge you to communicate with us. If you want to turn to Nahum chapter 1, verses 3 to 8, you can find there an indication of the whirlwinds. The smaller whirlwind is the tornado. We've had ferocious amounts of tornadoes here in our country over the past year or two. And then we've had all these hurricanes coming in off the Atlantic Ocean. Jeremiah 23, 16 to 22 talks about this terrible storm, which is also a hurricane or something like a hurricane. You can find the same thing in Jeremiah 30, 23 and 24. Jot down our literature order number, 8110. That's the literature order number for this program, and that literature order number will include a free 1-year subscription to our magazine, The Sacred Name Broadcaster. These are scenes from Israel, and I hope that you obtain a free 1-year subscription. This one has an article. This is one of our recent ones, and it's Usury, America's National Curse. And this is terrible. I got a letter from a credit card company. They want to sign me up for a credit card. I have no use for further credit cards. And the interest rate, I always look at the interest rate when I get these offers, 27% interest. That's 1/4 of what you earn annually. You'll be paying back 1/4 of what you borrow. You'll be paying back every year. 27% is just over the 25%, you see. So I don't know how in the world people are maintaining credit card payments, because it's a national curse. And here's a booklet I've written. This is Defending Textual Authenticity. I am not a believer in the Graf Wellhausen documentary, two-document hypothesis. And I wrote this article, this booklet, to defend textual authenticity. Now, if you've never studied the holy days of Leviticus 23, this one is Yahweh's sacred appointments, and this article is how to keep Yahweh's holy days. And I'd like to send these to you because perhaps you'd want to join us for worship during the annual holy days. Here's our calendar if you're a person of goodwill. We have scenes from Israel in the calendar, and I know that you'd really appreciate having one of these calendars. It's still time to get one, and you'll find that the holy days are marked. Here's our statement of doctrine. You want to prove we're not a cult. This one is the Apocrypha Purse edition. This is a standard edition. And here's our correspondence course. Here's some literature on the sacred name. And I'd like to also include your choice of the Seven Lamps of Yahweh or Israel's Tabernacle in the Wilderness. Literature order number 8110. No cost or obligation for a free 1-year subscription to the magazine and this other literature. Write to the Sacred Name Broadcast, P.O. Box C, Bethel, Pennsylvania, zip code 19507, or you can telephone our toll-free number 1-800-523-3827. That's 523-3827. We'll be looking for your letter or your telephone call this week, so don't disappoint us. Until next week at the same time on the same station, this has been Elder Jacob O. Meyer saying, may Yahweh bless you abundantly.